Mirage Comics' Michelangelo, 1984. He didn't start as a joke. Back in 1984, when Mirage Studios dropped the first issue of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Michelangelo wasn't tossing out catchphrases or making pizza his entire personality. He was a bit of an oddball, sure, more fun-loving and playful than his brothers, easygoing in a way that almost felt like a liability next to all the grim glowering. But that original Michelangelo, right there in issue 1, walks onto the page carrying exactly zero of the baggage you get in later adaptations. When you say Mirage, you're talking about creator-owned, black and white, ink-splattered panels mapped in a world so gritty it feels like the city itself could cut you. This version of Michelangelo spends less time mugging for the crowd and more time making you worry just a little if he's okay. A turtle cracking a nervous smile because that's how he copes. Sure, he's the one who'll leap into a skateboarding trick or make the only halfway appropriate joke when things turn dire, but don't confuse fun for frivolous. This Michelangelo is as capable with his fists and his nunchaku as anyone else. In the Mirage universe, everything is a hair more real than you expect. Turtles bleed, bad guys don't come back for next week's hijinks. And if you're picturing a winking cartoon character trading pizza toppings with a wink, think again. Here, pizza is barely a footnote. Tragedy hangs in the air, and Michelangelo's optimism is colored by how hard it is to keep things light. He's the relatable heart in a world where heart is a rare commodity. Without the world weariness yet, but already marked by the weight of being different in a place that never promised you a happy ending. And maybe that's why this version still rattles fans today. Because for all the jokes he might crack, quiet, small ones, they come from a place of survival, not slapstick. You're not laughing at the world with him, you're laughing because the alternative is too heavy. So as the Mirage Comics Michelangelo, he sets the template. The brother who lifts the mood, sometimes at his own expense, even as the stakes are gritty, desperate, and real. And right out of the gate, Michelangelo proved that being the goofball in a story with real teeth is less about comic relief and more about reminding everyone why you're fighting in the first place. Diving deeper into the Mirage continuity, Michelangelo's storylines often take uniquely personal turns that set him apart from his brothers. In later issues, he becomes the first turtle to truly reach beyond the group, striking up a poignant friendship with the human character Clunk, a stray cat, a rare moment of connection that humanizes him in a universe where few outside the family understand their plight. In later Mirage volumes, Mikey actually embarks on his own adventures as a writer, exploring aspirations apart from ninja combat, highlighting a rarely shown introspective side. Unlike the other turtles, whose identities are tightly linked to martial roles or gadgets, Michelangelo's defining trait in Mirage is his constant negotiation between the need to belong and the impulse to show compassion, even to those considered outsiders by his own brothers. This capacity for empathy, even when it brings pain, is what makes his levity a weapon, not against enemies, but against despair. Archie Comics Michelangelo, 1988. Everything changed when the Technicolor wave rolled in. Just 4 years after the Mirage debut, Archie Comics snatched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for their own Adventures series, and suddenly Michelangelo gets an emotional tune-up. No longer just the guy with the lightest footfall or the first to toss out that last slice joke, Archie's Michelangelo swiftly evolves. And evolved is the only word for it. Because starting in 1988, he stops being a stereotype of himself and becomes deeper, even as the comic ditches Mirage's relentless dirt-under-the-fingernails grit. Here, Michelangelo is still all about empathy, downright bursting at the seams with it. In the Archie continuity, he's not just the goof who lightens the mood, he's the one who actually notices when his brothers are hurting. His playfulness finds a softer, creative side. This isn't the turtle who's always drawing attention to himself, but the one lost in daydreams, or sketching pictures on the side of a notebook. The style and sensibility under Archie's pen throws out the old rulebook. Yes, he's as easygoing as ever, but his joy isn't self-protection, it's a worldview. What's crucial to understand is the structure. Archie TMNT Adventures doesn't just mirror Mirage. It runs wild with unique original storylines totally severed from its black and white predecessor. You get plots, settings, twists, and even supporting characters utterly unavailable elsewhere. This means the stakes are new, the tone is lighter, the world is more open, and, just as notably, Michelangelo's emotional register is now tuned to see the good in almost anybody. There's a subtle rebellion here against the assumption that lightness equals shallowness. He still cracks wise, sure, but his version of fun is softer, more creative, and, yes, more empathetic. Sometimes heartbreakingly so. Archie's Michelangelo doesn't stay static. His arc gives him unexpected responsibilities. Notably, he becomes an environmental advocate, showing a concern for the planet sometimes greater than his brother's enthusiasm for combat. He befriends mutant animal groups such as the mighty Mutanimals, and his ability to bond with outsiders turns him into a bridge between species, mutant, alien, and human. In later issues, Michelangelo's protective streak results in leadership moments, especially when it comes to vulnerable characters like the orphaned Chian-Con cubs. Unlike earlier portrayals, Archie's Mikey is the one who speaks for the voiceless and the strange, and the comics reward his kindness. His friendships often become critical to resolving storylines. This unique blend of creativity, humor, and genuine advocacy not only expands his character, it permanently alters the emotional DNA of the team. Michelangelo becomes proof that heroism isn't just throwing punches or cracking jokes, but defending what's good in the world, even when nobody else understands why. But let's admit the obvious, not every fan buys it. Where's the edge, the old guard asks? Where's the tension? Yet that's missing the point. Archie's Michelangelo doesn't need to prove he can go toe-to-toe with villains or agonize over the meaning of it all. He's the living proof that even in a world of mutants, robots, and running gags, the real work is caring when nobody else does. He's the glue in the team's emotional architecture, and for the first time in the franchise, fun isn't an escape, it's an invitation. Subscribe and tell us in the comments which Michelangelo variant you think was the truest to his roots. Let's get back into it. 1987, cartoon Michelangelo. And here's what changed everything, because if you think of Michelangelo and hear the word cowabunga, echo in your brain, congratulations. You've met the 1987 cartoon. This wasn't just an adaptation, it was a cultural earthquake. For 8 straight years, from 1987 to 1996, the TMNT animated series reprogrammed what the world expected from a Ninja Turtle, and Michelangelo was its pop culture detonator. Let's make this clear. This version of Michelangelo isn't like a party dude. He is the party dude. Catchphrases explode from him. Cowabunga isn't just a word, it's a war cry for a new kid-friendly era. He lives for pizza, jokes, and breaking the tension with a slapstick pratfall. And for millions of people, this isn't just Michelangelo, it's the only Michelangelo they know. But here's where it gets weirder. In some places, his nunchaku, the signature weapon for 3 straight iterations, disappeared. Seriously. In the United Kingdom and other parts of Europe, network censors scrambled to erase every spinning stick from television, worried it would inspire an epidemic of grade school nunchuck injuries. The result? By later seasons, Michelangelo's nunchaku transformed mid-run into a grappling hook. Not because it fit the story, not because it made sense, but because full-grown adults freaked out about 4 inches of plastic and foam. No other turtle lost their signature weapon, not like this. The series leaned hard into toy marketing synergy, and Michelangelo became the face of the TMNT's fun branding, his image plastered on everything from cereal boxes to skateboards. Voice actor Townsend Coleman infused Mikey with surfer dude energy so iconic, it became the de facto tone for years of future incarnations. Michelangelo's fondness for pizza single-handedly helped cement pizza party culture as part of TMNT's fan rituals and licensed products, not just in the US, but globally. Merchandise and catchphrases from this era echo decades later, outlasting even major characters and plotlines. Despite the constant gags, there's a subtle subversion at work. Michelangelo's humor often undercuts villain speeches, high-stress fights, and his brother's angsty moments, making him an essential mood regulator within the team dynamic. His party-first attitude, while surface level, lets anxious young viewers process on-screen danger as accessible, not overwhelming. And love it or hate it, this is the variant that codified Michelangelo as the goofball, the kid magnet, the comic relief. The gear shift from gritty subculture to mainstream Saturday morning phenomenon. That's all 1987 cartoon Michelangelo. Here's the tension. For purists, he's all style, no substance. For everyone else, he's the reason you ever picked up a turtle action figure and imagined yourself scarfing down a full cheese pie. And in a truly absurd twist, he's probably responsible for more shouted cowabunga see as and ruined couch cushions than anyone in franchise history. 1990s live-action film trilogy, Michelangelo. Are you telling me the world's biggest movie, Turtle, actually holds back? Because for the first time, the 1990s live-action film trilogy gave us a Michelangelo halfway in between the darkest shadow of the comics and the pizza-drenched shell of the cartoon. In the three films, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990, Secret of the Ooze, 1991, and TMNT 3, 1993, the guy in the orange mask walks a tightrope. Comic relief, yes, but also weirdly restrained, a little less wild, a little more grounded. The magic is that balance actually works, portrayed by Mikel Insisti for the first two films, with Brian Tochi providing the voice for all three. Live-action Michelangelo keeps one foot squarely in pop culture territory. He still cracks one-liners, drops references, and obsesses over pizza, but he's not just cannonballing through life. The mask here is latex, not pen and ink, which means every joke lands through layers of animatronic facial expressions and suit acting. It's a high-wire act that shouldn't work, but somehow does. Instead of being the constant joke machine, he flashes moments of vulnerability and genuine excitement, making the rare sincere moments actually stick out. These films let Michelangelo shine as the emotional pulse. He's the glue that binds the brothers, especially intense moments like the first film's Farmhouse Exile, where his levity literally pulls the team through the aftermath of their father figure's near death. Notably, he is the one who tries to spark joy when things look truly bleak, teaching his brothers how to cope when their world crumbles. The movie's Suitmation performance, Jim Henson's Creature Shop's animatronic wizardry, let more subtle humor and eye contact play out, giving Michelangelo's quips surprising depth for a character previously trapped in two dimensions. There's also a pop savviness unique to this version. Michelangelo's pop culture impressions, catchphrases, and straight-up fourth-wall breaks set him apart, making him not just the comic relief within the story, but the self-aware meta-comedian of the trilogy. Unlike the cartoon, where everything is up to 11, the films have to sell real stakes, real danger. Which means Michelangelo's comic relief comes with a scattering of nerves. He's hyped about pop culture, thrilled to be alive and part of the gang, but not immune to tension or fear. He'll hose down a moment of danger with a well-timed joke, but you know he's feeling the anxiety himself. Instead of pizza being his only food group, pop culture is his true language, and the references give the movies a signature Michelangelo flavor. But at least the live-action trilogy never asked him to be a stereotype. Here, he bursts off the screen not as a flat party dude, but as the kind of best friend you actually want around. Not clueless, not reckless, but somebody who remembers, even while joking, that the world is real and things can hurt. It's the film variant that manages to channel both cartoon sugar high and comic grit, fusing fun with something almost, dare I say it, mature. The Next Mutation, Michelangelo, 1997. I dare you to find a weirder moment for a turtle than The Next Mutation. In 1997, Saban's live-action TV series lands with all the subtlety of a dropped boombox, and Michelangelo is instantly recast as the lightest, most overtly childish of the bunch. For some, this was the beginning of the Dark Ages. For others, it's the weirdest guilty pleasure this side of mutant reptiles. Voiced by Kirby Morrow, Michelangelo in this incarnation is a walking, talking energy drink of a turtle. The goofball behavior that had always been a facet is now the whole thing. Forget subtext. On The Next Mutation, Michelangelo is the guy who can't stop himself from riffing as a radio DJ. Yes, you heard that right. This turtle isn't just making noise in the lair, he's literally running a pirate radio operation, calling himself the Sewer Hour DJ on air, and spinning a soundboard of gags. Where the earlier films and comics let Michelangelo be a teenager, this series drops the teen in favor of full-on grinning childishness. He's the class clown, the youngest brother who never takes anything seriously, at least on the surface. But there's the kicker. The Next Mutation is also famous, or infamous, for introducing Venus de Milo, the first female turtle to join the team. Suddenly, Michelangelo's party persona has a new dynamic. Instead of being the group's comic pressure valve, he's now the radio personality stirring up trouble, breaking tension with stunts and sound bites. In a show where the stakes were never life and death, Michelangelo's job isn't to survive or outwit, it's to keep the energy up at all costs. This incarnation, though mostly played for younger children, actually represents a fascinating experiment in postmodern turtle identity. Michelangelo's DJ alter ego reflects both his intense need for attention and a savvy understanding of media, predating later media-aware Michelangelos. While his emotional range is truncated compared to previous versions, his coping mechanisms, performance, humor as deflection, and relentless energy mirror anxieties about self-expression and acceptance, especially when Venus joins and scrambles group dynamics. In several episodes, his attempts to impress or amuse highlight his underlying insecurities, hinting at a character who wants desperately to be liked, both by his siblings and the new team member. The backlash against the series often overshadows these moments, but they reveal a Michelangelo who is more than just the clown. He's the canary in the coal mine for a franchise struggling with its own identity in the late 90s. Defenders point out this is the purest Michelangelo, uninhibited, expressive, amusing for kids. Critics say he's one-dimensional, proof that if you pump the brakes too hard on character depth, all that's left is a barrage of catchphrases. No matter which camp you're in, nobody can deny he's the lightest Michelangelo ever put to screen. A DJ, a prankster, a clown with a shell. And while the Next Mutation only ran for a single season, its Michelangelo remains a pop cultural curiosity, the punchline of a very odd joke that somebody, somewhere, still finds funny. 2003, cartoon Michelangelo. Here's where it snaps back, because just when you thought Michelangelo was doomed to eternal clown duty, the 2003 4Kids animated series flips the switch. Once again, Michelangelo is wacky, irrepressible, obsessed with pop culture, but crucially, he's got layers. This time you can see an actual person, mutant whatever, under the shell. Kicking off in 2003 and running all the way to 2009, this series doesn't just bring the Turtles back to TV, it drags Michelangelo back from caricature and gives him some actual arc. Do not underestimate how rare this is at the time. Here, Michelangelo's jokes aren't just window dressing, they reveal anxiety, insecurity, genuine excitement. He's still the kid brother, yes. He's still ruining training sessions with references and trying to lighten every fight. But there are moments, clear, deliberate ones, where you get the sense that under all the one-liners, he wishes he was being taken seriously. Or maybe that he could take himself seriously. The 4Kids series adapts comic arcs with a level of faith the franchise hadn't seen since Mirage. And Michelangelo benefits. He's still fun-loving, nothing gets that side of him erased, but now there's weight and consequence to everything, even the jokes. See, this version asks you to notice that humor isn't just for other people's benefit. It's Michelangelo's way of processing a city that never gives him a break, fighting battles that his brothers meet with fury or logic or tactics, but that he, alone among them, meets by laughing at the universe's absurdity. Notably, prestigious story arcs like the Battle Nexus tournament let Michelangelo shine in unconventional ways. Against all odds, and his brother's expectations, he actually wins, proving that his unorthodox approach and agility make him a legitimate competitor, not just a joke machine. This accomplishment is a turning point. It forces the group and fans to reevaluate just how far you can get with humor, creativity, and flexibility as your strengths. The 2003 cartoon also invests in his relationships. His mentor-student rapport with Splinter and rivalries with his brothers deepen, and we get glimpses of sibling bonds that balance mockery with real affection. There's also an intriguing arc involving clones of the Turtles where his empathy distinguishes him, a rare trait that allows him to connect with those even further outside the social norm. In short, this Michelangelo isn't just tolerated, he's an essential, ever-adapting thread that keeps the group from unraveling under pressure. And let's be very clear, the pop culture obsession makes a comeback. Every episode, Michelangelo is good for at least half a dozen references, but they're not just jokes anymore, they're world-building, signposts for a character who knows pop as a survival mechanism. In those 6 years, the 2003 Michelangelo is allowed to grow up a little, forced to face decisions, shake off one-liners long enough to develop an actual perspective. Goofball on the outside, real heart on the inside. TMNT 2007 CGI film Michelangelo. You want desperate? Picture Michelangelo in a foam costume dancing for kids who don't even know his name. In 2007, TMNT dropped into theaters as a CGI feature, and Michelangelo, voiced by Mikey Kelly, is mid-stride between eras. He's still the mischievous, fun-loving turtle you know, but now he's got a literal job, working as a children's birthday party entertainer decked out as Cowabunga Carl. Let that sink in. This is what it's come to. This variant is playful, yes, but not in a way that makes you feel like you're watching a cartoon for Saturday morning only. He's youthful, a little reckless, and genuinely wants to make people happy, even if that means donning a discount mascot suit and hurling himself into suburban backyard chaos. Every moment for this Michelangelo is calibrated for maximum fun. He's less comic relief, more pure embodiment of, let's not take this too seriously. Mischievousness is almost his love language, pushing boundaries, teasing his brothers, and refusing to apologize for dodging adulthood. A crucial detail, the events of this movie pick up after a long hiatus in the Turtles' crime fighting, with the brothers scattered and their unity fractured. Michelangelo clings to his playful persona not just for laughs, but as a desperate attempt to reconnect his family, anchoring himself as the last, best hope for the group to be whole again. The Cowabunga Carl persona is more than a comic beat. It allows Michelangelo to channel his sense of humor into something that pays the bills, in a strange reflection of how his jokes carry real-world value, not just narrative oxygen. His adaptability shines in other ways too. He's the brother quickest to try something new, even foolish, challenging authority or convention, traits that help when the Turtles finally reunite against shared threats. In action, his fighting style is shown as quick and improvisational, using the environment as a prop for both combat and comedy. But at the core, the 2007 film depicts Michelangelo as deeply afraid of losing what matters, his brother's friendship, and compensating with bigger, riskier jokes. This lens of humor as survival makes for a Michelangelo with real emotional clarity and a sadness under the jokes that, for the first time on film, is hard to miss. But at least the 2007 film lets him struggle with it. Because here's the thing. In a world where the Turtles feel a little burned out, drifting apart, Michelangelo is the only one fighting to keep the energy up, and yes, maybe to keep the family intact. That's the contradiction. While everyone else is fading into their roles, he's reinventing himself as the eternal optimist, the jester who makes chaos into comfort. And in his few vulnerable moments, the film makes it clear Michelangelo isn't just playing around for kicks. He's terrified of being the outlier, the one left out if fun isn't enough. Are you seeing the escalation? From pizza jokes and party dude cliches, we arrive at a Michelangelo forced into the world, hustling for smiles, still punching up, but starting to wonder if anyone gets the joke anymore. Cowabunga Carl is a mask for a mask, funny until it's not, then quietly sad, then, when nobody's looking, hopeful again. IDW Comics Michelangelo 2011 present. And just like that, the modern age hits with real teeth. Starting in 2011 and still running as of today, the IDW Comics reboot does something fans barely dared to hope for. It remixes all previous incarnations, takes the familiar Michelangelo traits, and rebuilds him for the 21st century. This is not nostalgia. This is a deliberate reimagining for readers who expect real growth, modern relationships, and emotional consequences to stick. Now, don't panic. The IDW Michelangelo you get is still recognizably himself. His core qualities are there. Easygoing, creative, and open-handed with his optimism. But every one of those qualities gets dialed deeper. This Michelangelo is no longer satisfied with just being the joke guy. Over years' worth of monthly issues, he develops relationships that aren't static punchlines. His brotherhood isn't a one-note theme, but a living, breathing dynamic, always tested, always at risk. Here's where it gets specific. IDW's Michelangelo is a study in how much a character can grow while still being beloved for the same reasons. He faces threats, trauma, and loss that you'd never see in a Saturday morning cartoon, and more importantly, he changes because of them. Easygoing doesn't mean conflict-free. He's forced to confront what his place on the team really means. Creativity isn't just for sight gags or background hobbies, it shapes major arcs and powers his ability to see solutions where other turtles won't. Key arcs see Michelangelo forging unlikely alliances. He befriends mutants and humans alike, often standing up to his more militaristic brothers when compassion trumps convention. The IDW run tackles his struggle to mediate conflicts within the family, especially during rifts where his optimism is interpreted as naivety, only for events to later validate his approach. Most shockingly, IDW Michelangelo undergoes a major existential test when losses in the family force him to question whether violence and revenge are antithetical to the hopeful, inclusive version of team building he represents. Stories like City at War and its aftermath explore the consequences of choosing empathy over vengeance in a violent world. Fans point to these arcs as the rawest, most psychologically real Michelangelo to date. His willingness to traverse emotional terrain no previous Mikey dared to walk, its evolution without erasure. He starts as the beating heart and, for the first time, becomes a wise, compassionate leader, capable of sacrificing his own ease and even relationships to keep hope alive. But defenders of the old school stop me right here. Isn't all this too modernized, too real? Except that's the point. The I Do Comics Michelangelo is proof that you can give a fun-loving icon real emotional stakes and not break the magic. He remains the most approachable turtle, the one who draws you in when the world gets heavy, who still finds ways to keep laughing, even when nobody else feels like it. He's a turtle for the Twitter generation, layered, self-aware, and, maybe for the first time, really allowed to grow up. 2012 cartoon Michelangelo. And just when you think the archetype's been exhausted, Nickelodeon detonates expectations. The 2012 animated series, running from 2012 to 2017, tosses Michelangelo into hyperdrive and never looks back. There's no slow build here. Within minutes, you know you're dealing with a full-color, fast-talking blast of energy more Mikey than any predecessor. Portrayed by Greg Sipes, this Michelangelo is hyperactive, wildly creative, and radiates a kind of childlike wonder that doesn't just border on, but full-on mirrors ADHD traits. The writing isn't afraid to make it text. This Mikey is distractible, impulsive, bursting with ideas, sometimes to the delight and sometimes to the sheer exasperation of his brothers. Every room he enters, every fight he joins, becomes instantly more chaotic, but also, for better or worse, more fun. Here's the bold move. Instead of using Michelangelo to break tension, the 2012 show embraces tension and lets Mikey turbocharge it. He'll leap headlong into danger without a plan, invent weird gadgets, start painting graffiti murals in the lair, and create chaos like a force of nature. Never mean-spirited, always sincere. The jokes land because you believe he's seeing the world through different eyes. Colors are brighter, threats more exciting, every problem a puzzle to solve his own way. Distinctly, this show's writing staff and animators gleefully exploit Michelangelo's imaginative side, delivering episodes built on his wild ideas. Whether training a mutant pigeon or befriending bizarre monsters, Mikey's empathy lets him resolve conflicts that baffle his more practical brothers. He regularly names new mutant creatures and develops emotional bonds, even with would-be enemies, sometimes saving the day through connection instead of combat. His sense of taste and creativity manifests in his wild pizza inventions, which achieve meme status among fans. Yes, pizza sushi really happens, and somehow it makes perfect sense for this version. The series also gives him notable emotional arcs, like coping with the fear of losing his brothers, and a rare direct friendship with the sinister but tragic Ice Cream Kitty. By foregrounding his creative impulses and childlike optimism, the 2012 series finally untethers Michelangelo from the party dude stereotype, honoring his roots as the heart of the group even as he creates more chaos than ever before. The animation itself adapts to the vibe, fluid, energetic, prone to veering off model for the sake of a gag. Michelangelo doesn't just lighten the mood, he defines it, but crucially, the series never makes him the butt of the joke. He's valued as the creative spark, given moments of real clarity and of heartbreak that only land harder coming from the resident whirlwind. For an entire generation, this becomes the Michelangelo, not just the comic relief, but the magical core that keeps the Turtles together through chaos, pizza, and every disaster thrown their way. 2014-2016. Film Michelangelo. If you thought you'd seen Turtle Tech updates before, you weren't ready for the Platinum Dunes era. In the motion capture-powered Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies of 2014 and 2016, Michelangelo is rebuilt pixel by pixel, literally. Voiced and performed in full mocap by Noel Fisher, this Michelangelo isn't just a fun-loving party animal, he's fully embedded in the tech-soaked contemporary blitz of the 2010s. Let's be clear, in visual terms, these movies turn every dial to blockbuster. Michelangelo's look is updated, his gear is shaded, and there's a glossy, kinetic energy to every fight. But the personality, unexpectedly, remains grounded. This Mikey is the team's most outgoing, the first to voice excitement, to flirt, to grab for every new toy or gadget thrown in his path. He's the turtle who runs towards a good time, whether that means busting out a skateboard, DJing a fight, or leveling up his tech arsenal. Fun-loving, flirtatious, and lighthearted is the default. But here's where it gets interesting. Stripped of the old-school cartoon innocence, Platinum Dunes' Michelangelo is loud but not dumb, wild but not reckless. He can handle himself, and while he'll tease literally anybody at any moment, there's a sincerity anchoring every wisecrack. These films want him to be the audience's conduit, the turtle who, if handed a smartphone, would immediately start a group chat with Splinter just for the laughs. What sets these movies apart in Michelangelo's evolution is their focus on sibling rivalry and the push-pull of independence. Mikey is the only one who seems genuinely excited about being mutant celebrities, relishing publicity and yearning for broader social acceptance. His attempts to bond with April and Vern, and his flirtatious, if cringy, attempts to impress April show a self-awareness new to the franchise. The fun guy with an acute longing to connect both inside and outside the team. The motion capture technology also enables a more physically expressive Michelangelo, his mannerisms and facial tics driven by Fisher's performance, making this the most physically dynamic, realistic Mikey to date. Speaking of realism, these films don't shy away from the implications of being a 6-foot mutant in New York. Michelangelo's attempts to blend in, his love of social media, and his relentless positivity become frontline tools in dealing with fear and isolation. This is a Michelangelo who's as interested in viral videos and modern slang as he is in pizza. A 21st century turtle desperate to turn the outsider experience into something to be celebrated, not pitied or hidden. And yes, there's still pizza, there's still party dude energy, but there's a modern undertone of confidence and independence. You get the sense, for the first time, that Michelangelo would survive in a world outside the sewer, not just adapt, but thrive. He's a turtle fully adapted to modern chaos, digital, social, and definitely not afraid of the spotlight. Rise of the TMNT Michelangelo, 2018-2020. Who says you can't break the formula and still make it sing? With Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles airing from 2018 to 2020, Michelangelo takes on his boldest visual shift yet, the youngest, and, for once, the undisputed artistic star of the bunch. The animation zips and crackles, crackling with energy and magic so ramped it almost leaks off the screen. In Rise, Michelangelo is more than a fun-loving prankster. He's depicted as genuinely naive. That's not an insult, but his secret superpower. As the youngest brother, he not only acts like the baby of the group, he feels like it too, walking through the world with an energy that's unfiltered, optimistic, and occasionally so trusting it stings. But it's his artistry that defines him here. He's the one shell deep in spray paint, sketchbooks, and graffiti, creating something beautiful at every opportunity. Rise stands out for the pure visual and tonal reinvention. Michelangelo's athletic, flexible animation style mirrors his creative thinking. His use of the mystic Kusari Fundo, a glowing chain weapon, not only tracks with his more playful try-anything style, but lets him bend the laws of the series' magic-infused universe. For the first time, art itself becomes a superpower. Mikey literally weaponizes invention, whether it's painting portals or using graffiti for camouflage. He's given distinct relationships outside the core group, mentoring new mutants, collaborating with villains turned allies, and even test driving what leadership through joy could look like. Unlike every previous version, Michelangelo's lack of experience is treated as a creative advantage, not a problem. He sees possibilities where the others see barriers, turning seeming mistakes into unorthodox solutions. The writers lean into this, letting Mikey's art and optimism fuel iconic moments, like literally painting a team banner at the height of a boss battle, or healing wounds with magical doodles. The stakes escalate here in the oddest way. The world isn't grimmer, it's weirder. Magic is everywhere. Action scenes break the laws of physics, art is literally a weapon, and Michelangelo's optimism becomes the catalyst for half the plot twists. You can see the genuine risk, unfiltered joy and creative fire make him unpredictable, sometimes unstoppable, sometimes a little lost. Magic, art, chaos. Rise's Michelangelo is either everything defenders of the old school feared, or everything the future of TMNT needed to be. In a franchise obsessed with nostalgia cycles, this is one variant that breaks the wheel and doesn't look back. Mutant Mayhem Michelangelo, 2023. And now, the current era, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, released in 2023, freshest out of the ooze, and for the first time in decades, Michelangelo is actually audibly teenage. Not a grown-up faking youth, not a turtle turning every sentence into a punchline, but a real adolescent with anxieties, bravado, and a hunger to fit in. Voiced by Shaman Brown Jr., 2023's Michelangelo is revitalized with contemporary dialogue and a brand new visual sensibility. His jokes don't sound recycled, his energy doesn't feel like a rehash. Instead, Michelangelo comes alive as a real, genuinely teenage kid, emotional, unpredictable, deeply invested in the Brotherhood, and eager to make sense of a world stacked against him. Each line reads like it could have come from a phone call with a real 15-year-old. The tension is finally real because the characters sound like kids who aren't sure if pizza can fix it this time. Mutant Mayhem doesn't just update Michelangelo's lingo, it grounds his worldview in the raw desire for belonging that drives real adolescence. His optimism feels earned, not default. Mikey's the first to crack a joke under pressure, but he's also the one who gets nervous at parties, blushes at social awkwardness, and fears letting down his brothers. The movie's slice-of-life scenes dwell on friendship, embarrassment, envy, and the laser intensity of teenage dreams. Michelangelo's connections stretch beyond the sewer. His bonds with new mutant friends show a willingness to embrace strangers, challenge bias, and grow through discomfort. The film's visual style, rough-edged, kinetic, purposely unfinished in spots, mirrors Michelangelo's own rough-around-the-edges personality, reinforcing his authenticity in every frame. Audience response underscores just how vital this reboot is. Kids finally see a Michelangelo who struggles, stumbles, and finds confidence not in being the party dude, but in being vulnerable in front of friends. Crucially, this version uses humor as invitation, not just armor. It's how he brings the team together, how he inspires action instead of just diffusing conflict. Gone are the empty catchphrases. Every quip lands with weight because the friendships and fears are real. As the latest face of TMNT, Mutant Mayhem, Mikey, invites new generations not just to laugh, but to connect, and questions what it really means to be the heart in a squad full of sharp edges. Here, Michelangelo's trait isn't party dude, it's heart. It's the beating center of a team still figuring themselves out, adolescents and all, with personalities louder, messier, and funnier than ever. For a franchise closing in on 40 years, that feels like the only logical next step. The Michelangelo who doesn't just act like a teenager, but actually is one. Because finally the world caught up with him.